Everybody, how do? Little minor hiccup. Technology is supposed to make your life easier, and at times it doesn't. So, welcome to the Neutral Zone. I am Ryan Neff. I'm your host. What a week one of college football! All kinds of things happened in that week one, huh? You had the big boys kicking the little guy's ass, and then you had some unexpected stuff happen. So I'll just delve into it. My takeaways for week one. Obviously you had the likes of Oregon scoring 81 points, Oklahoma scoring 73. I mean, just stop already with scheduling little guys like that anymore. There should be no need for it, especially since we're going through the realignment. Everybody jumping ship to other conferences. I get it. You're paying mucho bucks to have the little guy come play you. It's a big payday for them. But come on, man. I mean, do the little schools who go, and I get it, every once in a while, like back in 2007, Appalachian State, and every so often, the little guy will beat the big guy. But it's so few and far between. Just enough of it already. There was too much of that week one, and I just hate to see it anymore. I just do. Way back in the day, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you would have never seen any of that. So I just think that they should discontinue doing that, and just, Arkansas State, God bless them. You get blank 73-0, and you just, for what? Why do you want to put your kids through that? You really think that's a learning experience? I mean, yeah, you get your ass handed to you every once in a while as a learning experience. Yeah, but not like that. You're just like Oregon throwing up 81 points. That's just it. It's insane. Obviously, Colorado with the big win at TCU, and I've said pump the brakes. Deion Sanders, pump the brakes. This TCU team is not the team that they, got to the college football playoff with. It is completely different. So, yes, did they have a tremendous game? Number one, absolutely. They didn't play any defense either. So, yes, they look spectacular. Will they probably win this week against Nebraska? Matt Rule is probably in for another rude awakening. I know it's I just pump the brakes a little bit. So, Colorado could lose the next 5 games, and then everybody will be off that bandwagon. So, but tremendous win for the program. You can see what Deion Sanders is going to do. He's going to do stuff unconventionally. He's going to have guys play 2 ways. He opens up the playbook. Again, defensively, little something to be desired, but we'll see what happens this week. They still have to play Oregon. They have to play Utah. They have to play Oregon State, and I believe they have to play Washington. So everybody that's on the bandwagon right now, if they get their asses kicked in those games, are you going to back off the bandwagon? That's usually what happens. That's why I say to everybody, it's week one. It's one game. One game. One. You can't tell anything off of week one. Period. You can't do it. You don't know where teams actually stand. Again, TCU, not the same this year as to what they were last year. You looked at some of the big boys that did play people. Ohio State, they have a quarterback problem. That string of quarterbacks that they've had over the last 10, 12, 15 years has, I think, taken a little bit of a screech. And I don't think Ryan Day knows what to do. I don't think they're going to be solidified on a starting quarterback. Nobody is running away with the quarterback one position. They're not. Thank God Ohio State's defense played well. Indiana they showed glimpses, but Ohio State's defense put the clamps down. And Ohio State just looked lost offensively. I did not see anything out of this football team offensively that would say they're going to be Michigan. or they're going to be Penn State. Not the way it's constructed right now. And I think Ryan Day is trying to – he's trying. He wants a quarterback to step out and run away with the job. Or maybe he's just going to play two quarterbacks the rest of the way. But I just don't see anything right now. And, of course, they dropped in the polls. I don't like looking at polls. I said that last week. I just think it's nonsense. It's stupid. It's, again, let the publications come out with the preseason stuff like I've said before. AP coaches poll, get rid of them. They don't mean anything. Just stop that nonsense too. Just wait until half of the season's over. Then if the AP and the coaches poll want to come out, and the coaches poll is a joke anyway because they have their mothers of the secretaries of the schools, cast their vote. It's a joke. I just don't see enough. And these are the things that you get worked out in spring practice. These are the things that you get worked out in August. And they just look lost offensively, obviously without the quarterbacks that they've had in the last 10, 15 years. I'm not saying they can't get it figured out. But, again, thank God Ohio State's defense played well against Indiana, or they might have fallen victim, like TCU did. So we'll have to see what happens there. You look at some of the other top teams, like I said, you expected Michigan to do Michigan things against East Carolina. Where does Michigan stand? Again, you or I could coach Michigan right now for the first 3 games at Harvard, 4 games, whatever the hell it is, that Harbaugh has been suspended. They could take somebody off the street and plug them in as the head coach for Michigan right now. And just say, go run the football, and we'll pass it around every once in a while, and you'd win the football game, especially against these first 3 to 4 opponents. That was a joke. I get the Clemson because I watched the debacle, and I said this on Twitter. DJ Uiagalelei was not the problem at Clemson, and it's obvious now. They brought in Riley, the TCU offensive coordinator, thinking that was going to fix their woes. There was no leadership on this football team, where in the past I've seen leadership. Somebody has taken the bull by the horns and said, hey, man, this is what needs to be done. And nobody's doing that right now. And Dabo, after the game, looked like a little boy who brought his toy to play, and his toy got stolen, and it got kicked around, and he didn't know what to do. There's no leadership on this football team right now. Kay Klubnik played okay. Duke had a solid year last year, but you got to remember something. Clemson, the program has been on a high for like the last 14 seasons. You were going to get everybody's best effort. Everybody was in the ACC, and they play, we want to beat you because we can brag about it. And Duke did just that. And what do you think that does for recruiting at Duke? Now, I'm not saying Duke's going to go 11-1 or anything like that, but you beat the likes of a Clemson, or let's say they go out and beat a couple of other top 15 teams. Traditionally, a basketball school, there might be kids that, may not have other opportunities at some of the other big-time schools, and Duke might coming and saying, want you. I heard Paul Feinbaum say that the Clemson dynasty is over. I'm not going to go that far. And again, it comes down to recruiting. The Deshaun Watsons of the world, Taj Boyds of the world, Trevor Lawrences of the world. And traditionally over the last 13, 14 years, they've been solid defensively. Well, when your defense sees that your offense isn't doing squat, it just puts that much more pressure on them. So and if they've missed the college football playoff the last 2 years. Okay. And when you don't make the college football playoff, and you have to remember something, Georgia has won the last two national championships. Clemson's real close to Georgia. If you go and take a look at the map, if you want to study up on your geography, it's real close to Georgia. And Dabo Swinney has been, before Kirby Smart got to Georgia, he's been able to go into Georgia and he's been able to stay home at South Carolina and go into North Carolina and go into Tennessee. When you're winning national championships, your recruiting classes are fantastic because where does everybody want to go? Where they might win an ACC title, conference championship, and then possibly a college football national championship. Well, now Georgia's won the last two. And Kirby Smart has those bragging rights now. South Carolina, Clemson still has it over South Carolina as far as recruiting goes. But, when you're missing out on playoffs, now that'll change with the expansion, of the college football playoff with the more teams. But, they see what Tennessee's doing. And a lot of recruits think, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You don't make the playoff, that hurts recruiting. You don't win championships, conference championships, hurts recruiting. So if I'm a kid in Georgia or right there on the border where South Carolina and Georgia are, and I'm a high-level recruit, 5-star recruit, and the NIL deals, and Georgia's won the last two national titles. Clemson's missed out on the last two. It hurts. So, dynasty over? We'll have to see. We'll have to see where this Clemson program goes here from now. Because this is uncharted water for Dabo. It really is. I don't think he's experienced a loss like this. You could talk about losing to Alabama in a national championship game. You could talk about some of the other losses. But he's never experienced anything like this before. So we'll see what happens. A couple of the other games, North Carolina, South Carolina, it really wasn't much of a game. It really tells you where South Carolina is. I know they had a hell of an ending to the year last year, but it's a different year. Wiped the slate clean. Drake May needs to cut down on the interceptions a little bit. He threw 2 of them, I believe. But the defense played outstanding. I haven't seen North Carolina's defense play like that in a long time. And again, we don't know where South Carolina is as far as competition goes. But if North Carolina can play defensively for most of the year like that, and Drake May can cut down on the interceptions, I'm already going to say this now. Clemson is not winning the ACC this year, period. It's a huge, huge loss to start the year. They are not winning the ACC. Period. I'm calling it now. If they do, I swallow my words. It's probably going to be either Florida State, and I think now that teams in the ACC really have to worry about North Carolina. You got the potential Heisman Trophy winner this year, or a candidate at least, and then you have the defense that looks to be much improved. Again, it's only week 1. We'll see where we stand halfway through the year, but the Florida State has to be aware that this team, because Clemson's lucky to win 8 games this year. They really are. I just don't see it. Then you had the LSU Florida State game. LSU was up at the half, and they just fell apart second half. I don't know what the hell happened there. I did not expect that. I thought it would be a close game throughout. But maybe LSU's really not where we thought they should be, or thought they were anyway. And Florida State, I have to admit, a little skeptical. I had to see it on the field. I saw it on the field the other night. They took it to them in the second half. So we'll see what happens with Florida State the rest of the way and where this propels LSU. Because you can either say, okay, lost. It's not a conference game. You can still win the SEC West, get to the SEC championship game. But the version I saw of LSU the other night, as opposed to last year, they're not going to beat Alabama this year the way they play. Again, it's only 1 week. It's only 1 week. But as we stand right now, some of the other games, you could take a look at the top 25. Again, most of them really, really just was pathetic. And again, I just wish I hate to beat a dead horse, but I just wish that the big boys would stop scheduling cupcakes, because it's embarrassing for the team that loses. And to be quite honest with you, it's embarrassing for the program that schedules them. Again, it's a lot of money for the other programs, athletic department, but for the love of God, it just doesn't make any sense anymore. And I'm trying to pull up some of the other games. Notre Dame again. Cupcake. It's a joke. And I'm just trying to look through some of the other stuff that I saw. And again, they're really, other than the LSU Florida State game and the North Carolina South Carolina game, people thought that Colorado State might beat Washington State. That never materialized. That was a joke. Tennessee handled Virginia. Oklahoma with I'm not going to talk about that. I called the Northern Illinois win over Boston College. They were one of my picks. You had Ole Miss scoring 73 against Mercer. You feel the theme. You see the theme. It was a joke. Just a flat-out joke. Oregon throwing up 81 on Portland State. Some people thought Boise State might give Washington a tussle. That never materialized. Boise State, they're not what they once were. That aura is gone, especially with all this stuff going on with college football and the realignments and people jumping ship. And Boise State mystique it's a thing of the past. So forget it. Little surprise, Texas struggled with Rice last week. I expected them to blow them out, and Rice was hanging around up until halftime, and then Texas just came out. But they better not play like that against Alabama, because we got waxed. Auburn beating the hell out of Massachusetts. So again, you see the theme. It was just, there was really no competitive football games, other than little guy playing little guy. So. So let's get to week number 2. And let me get to the schedule. And I'm not going to go in any sequential order or what. Oh, you know what? We will. Clemson, who I would have dropped out of the top 25 after that. But some odd reason, I guess it's probably just reputation, they're hanging on to number 25. They're playing Charleston Southern, who is 1-0. And I just will say this. This game will go one of two ways. Either Clemson's going to wallow in the mire, and they're going to be like, what in the hell just happened against Duke? Or they're going to use it as a springboard. I think Charleston Southern's in trouble. I think Clemson probably put a whoop ass on them. And if they can't, and they don't, then you're really going to start hearing the chatter. Game 1 at home, it's Charleston Southern. We should beat the hell out of them. So we'll see what happens. So I will go Clemson 50, Charleston Southern 14. How's that? Really, if they can't and they don't beat the hell out of them, yeah. Number 24. No, actually, no. Yeah, number 24. It's Tulane against Ole Miss. This might be one of the better games on the slate, my friends. Tulane, we all know what kind of season they had last year. Ole Miss with again, you played Mercer. 73-7. Now, Tulane's a step up in competition. Tulane beat USC in the bowl game last year. I know, minus Caleb Williams, I get it. But I think this will be a little bit of a test for Ole Miss. Do I think they're going to blow Tulane out? No. Do I think Tulane will be game? Absolutely. You don't think Tulane would relish in the fact that they beat an SEC opponent? Of course they would. I don't see it happening. I just think Ole Miss is too much on both sides of the football. I think Ole Miss will win 31, Tulane 20. Tulane's going to be game. This is not going to be a blowout. I said this will probably be one of the better games on the slate. Then we have number 23, Texas A&M, playing Miami. Miami's at home. A&M's favored by 4.5. This is sort of one of those gimme games right now because we really don't know what Texas A&M has, and you don't know what Miami has. Haven't really seen enough of both of them. Everybody keeps talking about Texas A&M, and they put last year behind them, and everybody's talking about Miami and the start that they had a season ago, and it just turned into a nightmare. This is one of those early games between both these teams that it could either go. This could be a game that either propels one program up this way when they win, and the loser could just go. This will be a close game as well, just because it's in Miami. Texas A&M is used to the heat, but not that heat. Not that kind of soupy, pea soup. You get ready to go somewhere and you're all dressed nice, and then as soon as you open your door and you step out and your stuff is like clinging to you. I still think Texas A&M wins the football game. This will be close. I think the heat will probably be an issue. Look for a lot of cramping. Got to stay hydrated. I'm going to say Texas A&M 29, Miami 24. Then we get to Colorado. Again, I said pump the brakes on Colorado. Again, TCU is not what they once were from last year. Colorado has athletes all over the place. Nebraska went to Minnesota, played Minnesota tough. That was a fugly game. I'll use the word fugly. It was bad. Not a lot of offense. If you're in the defense, that was your game to watch. I know what Matt Rule's trying to do. Not going to happen overnight. He's got to rebuild the culture. Nebraska fans need to get away from the Tom Osborne days. Just have to. It's never going to be like that again. Unless they get somebody in there like a Nick Saban or basically Nick Saban to Nebraska. That's not happening. Colorado's on a high. And I believe, and again, I am scrolling through my notes. So, yes, Colorado is at home. Nebraska probably isn't going to see this type of athleticism all year. I think they'll be game for a half. But I think Colorado will probably pull away. And again, with Colorado, you have to worry about the letdown. Deion Sanders is not going to let that happen. Then you worry about the altitude. Colorado has too much on both sides of the ball. I will say Colorado 40, Nebraska 20. Just because, Colorado's defense isn't all that either. I mean, they have to shore that up. So Number 21, Duke. Huge win the other night. Absolutely huge. But what can they now do with it? Can this propel them? They're playing Lafayette this week. Don't let the letdown happen. Okay, you beat Clemson. Now how are you going to follow up that game? You're playing Lafayette. Should be an easy win, but don't just think because you beat Clemson that you're all that now. Because again, we don't know how good Clemson is. We don't even know where they're at right now. This could be one of those seasons for Clemson that fans will want to forget. You have to beat the hell out of a team like Lafayette. I think they'll be up for the game. Another home game coming off that tremendous victory. Again, Lafayette, just because Duke might be down a little bit off that high, they might hang around for a quarter. I just think Duke pulls away. I'm going to go Duke 38, Lafayette 17. Then we get to Wisconsin. Wisconsin played Buffalo last week. They struggled with them early. And then obviously they pulled away to start off the Luke Fickell era with a W. I had to I had to laugh at the people who thought Colorado State was going to be Washington State last week. That was funny. That actually, I got a good chuckle out of that one. And I took Washington State last week to cover the spread. That's not why I took them. I just think that they were just head and shoulders above Colorado State, and we all know the hard times Colorado State's fallen on the last 4 or 5 years. And tricky. Pardon me while I enjoy my tasty beverage. Tough place to play. Pullman. Telling you. Yeah. Wisconsin's favored by 6. I think with Washington State, with everything that's happened with the Pac Zero, I guess we can call it. I don't know. You read everything about they wanted to leave Washington State and Oregon State as the only 2 teams left in the Pac-12, and everybody was going to jump ship. I feel it. I saw it from Washington State last week. Now they struggled a little bit early. Everybody does, unless you're playing that cupcake. I just think they're going to use that. I saw it last week. When they got rolling, I just think that they're going to use that fuel like, those bastards. All that crap that we're talking behind the scenes about us. And this is the first prime opportunity for this. Again, Wisconsin, everybody's talking about either Wisconsin or Iowa winning their division in the Big 10 plus 10 is what it is now. I just think this is tricky for Wisconsin. You see where I'm going? Huh? This is my upset of the week. This game will be close throughout. But for some odd reason, I just think Washington State was going to pull this game out. And Wisconsin doesn't want to get in a shootout. I'm going with the gut here. I'm saying Washington State 31, Wisconsin 27. Number 18, Oklahoma. 73-0 against Arkansas State last week. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Mr. Polish Toast, thanks for tuning in, my friend. And anybody who's going to take a look at this later on, again, send questions, send comments, ridicule me if you want. I mean, if I can't take the criticism as constructive, then I shouldn't be doing this. So, again, Oklahoma, just they should be embarrassed for what they did to Arkansas State last week. People will tell me, well, the kids are just playing hard. No, that's being asinine. Now they play SMU this week. SMU's no slouch. They're a solid football team. Now, the bettors, or not the better, the people in Vegas only have Oklahoma favored by 15.5. At home. Somebody knows something somewhere. I'm not sure what I should read into that. Again, week 1, they play a cupcake. You don't know how good Oklahoma is. Beating up on them. And in the same token, SMU played Louisiana Tech last week. Louisiana Tech's a good football team. And they took it to them. But with all that being said, I will take Oklahoma. I think they're going to have a harder time, but I just think they probably have too much and they pull away. So I'm going to go Oklahoma 45, SMU 27. So there you have it. Then we get to number 17, North Carolina. They play Appalachian State this week. I saw a lot of good things out of North Carolina last week. The Drake made 2 turnovers. Again, I think he corrects that. But the defense, this defense last year was pungent. And instead of saying putrid, I like the word pungent better. Because it's just like when you stink, you're putrid or you're pungent. Their defense was bad. They were pungent. And I saw a lot of good things out of them. Now, again, don't know how good South Carolina is, but they took it to them. I mean, they were in the backfield all night long. And I said, if their defense can play like that most of the year, Drake May limits the turnovers, this team's going to be formidable, my friends. Right now I'm taking Clemson out of the equation for the ACC with that loss, and I'm plugging North Carolina in there. Florida State, North Carolina, again. But we'll see as the season progresses. But this game against Appalachian State last year was a shootout, like big time. Do I think it'll be like that again this year? Hell no. Not what I saw from North Carolina this past week. We all know Appalachian State, the Giant Killers, this, that, and the other thing. I don't think it's going to be like that. I'm going to go North Carolina. I'll say 42, Appalachian State 21. We get to number 16, Oregon State. I told people, everybody thought San Jose State was going to win last week or cover the spread. Try to tell you people, this is one of my sleeper teams of the year. Based on what happened last year. I had a hell of a year last year, and they carried that momentum into this year. Everybody thought that San Jose State was going to throw up all these points and, they're going to beat them, and Oregon State better watch out. No. Absolutely not. Again, Oregon State and Washington State. Oregon State, one of the 2 teams that the Pac-12 wanted to leave behind for whatever reasons. And Oregon State, I saw it, just like with Washington State. I saw it with Oregon State when I was watching some of that football game. They've tuned the noise out. All right. We're going to throw the product on the field. We're going to tune all that crap out, and we're just going to go play football. And that's what they did. And I'm just trying to scroll through my notes here. Again, I'm sorry. I should have like big-ass pieces of paper around me. They play UC Davis. Again, just stop scheduling these little guys. they'll beat the hell out of UC Davis. Just it's probably going to be, I don't know, Oregon State 62, UC Davis 10. So there you go. Number 14 this week is LSU. We saw the collapse against Florida State, and I never would have imagined that at all. I thought both these teams mirrored one another. One team made adjustments at the half and came out firing, and the other team was like, we've got a 3-point lead. Let's just do what we did in the first half in the second half, and we'll come away with the W. And that was not the case. And now Grambling comes to town. It's great medicine if you're sick as a football player. You get tattooed in the second half, and now we got to go play this team. And, I'm not even going to touch that just because LSU 50, Grambling 7. Number 15, Kansas State. They just picked up right where they left off last year. Again, they're going to be a viable foe in the Big 12. And they're going to be right there in the end. And I'm trying to pull up who they play. Oh, Troy. Troy's another one of those teams that are, giant killer. And Troy's not a bad football team. Spread 16.5. Kansas State, balanced offensively and defensively. Troy will come to play like they do always. I just think Kansas State has too much on both sides of the ball. So I'll say Kansas State 38, Troy 24. Number 13, Oregon. Again, shame on you. 81-7 against Portland State. It was just, why would anybody other than Oregon Ducks fan want to watch that? And the Oregon Duck did like 500 and some push-ups. I hope he has a good ER deductible. That's all I'll say. But that's just, they played Texas Tech this week. Texas Tech was one of my picks last week against the spread, and they went up 17-0. And I know they had the huge weather delay, but I mean, my God, you're up 17-0, and then it was brutal. Do I think Texas Tech will play tough? Yeah. For some odd reason, this spread's only 6. Texas Tech at home against Oregon. Somebody knows something somewhere. But, I mean, you go to Wyoming and you lose to Wyoming, and now you have to come home and face an Oregon Ducks offense that just threw up 81 on, again, cupcake. I don't think it'll be that close as far as 6.5 goes. Oregon 35, Texas Tech 24. Go to the Utah Utes, beat the hell out of my Gators. Going to be a rough year, Gator fans. It's going to be another rough year. Just be prepared for it. They play Baylor. Baylor lost to Texas State. I forgot to mention that. That's bad. And Baylor had a good year last year. And you come out the gate and you lose to Texas State. It's not good. And I've heard all the chatter this week that Baylor's going to come to play, and I've seen people say upset city and Utah is going to be too confident. Did you watch Utah last week defensively? Did you watch them offensively without Cam Rising? Just wait till Cam Rising comes back. Do I think this is going to be a close game? No, I don't. I think it's going to be Utah 37, Baylor 21. You hear that? 38-21. I'm going to save this other game for kind of last, but I'll go to number 10 ranked Notre Dame. Again, back-to-back weeks. They've played nobody, and they've looked good. Okay, they've looked good with Sam Howard. I'll be, you know. Now you have to go to NC State. This is the first real competition that Notre Dame will have. This will kind of show us where Notre Dame is at right now. North Carolina State's no slouch. I've been saying for the last 8, 9, 10 years that North Carolina State is one of those teams that should break through in the ACC just because of some of the talent that they get, and they just haven't done it. But this is an early kickoff. This is 12 p.m. You have to protect against overconfidence if you're Notre Dame. You just have to protect against overconfidence. And North Carolina State has nothing to lose. You're coming to our house. This game's going to be a lot closer than people think. I still think Notre Dame wins. I'll probably eat my words on this one because every time I go with North Carolina State, they wind up going. So, Notre Dame 34, NC State 26. There we go. Number 9, Tennessee. Again, they blow out Virginia last week. You expected them to. I didn't expect anything different. They've picked up right where they left off last year. How good is Joe Milton? We don't know. They're playing Austin Peay this week. I'm not spending time on this game. This will be another blowout. I'll go Tennessee 53, Austin Peay 3, just because they kick a late field goal. Number 8, Washington beat the hell out of Boise State last week. A lot of people thought Boise State would give them a tussle. They did not. Penix Jr. had a great game for Washington. Defense played spectacularly. Did you hear me? I said they played spectacularly. The defense in the Pac-0, that's unheard of. And I'm trying to find out who they play this week, so I apologize. My notes are all over the place. Again, they will be one of the players all year long, and I'm just going to call it the Pac-0 because we don't know what's going. Oh, they play Tulsa. Tulsa's not a bad football team, but Washington's going to be at home, coming off that type of win at home. Tulsa's going to throw up some points. But I just think Washington, and if I'm reading this correctly, Washington's favored by 34 points. That's just based off what happened last week. I don't know if they'll cover the 34, so I'm going to go Washington 48, and I'll go Tulsa 27. Number 7, Penn State, obviously beats West Virginia last week. We all saw what they did at the end of the game, and they got bashed for it. Instead of just sitting on the ball and taking a knee, they decided to score a touchdown to cover the spread. And I don't care how they spin it. That's exactly what they did. It's a big win for Penn State to start the season, obviously. Those two used to play each other way, way back. They played every year. Now this week they played Delaware again. Not spending a whole lot of time on it. I'll go Penn State 47, Delaware 17. There you go. Number 5, Ohio State. They play Youngstown State this week. They beat out Indiana last week. They did not look good at all. They look good defensively. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. They're playing Youngstown State. If you can't blow them out, Ohio State 50, Youngstown State 6. Number 4, Florida State. We saw what they did to LSU in the second half. They dismantled them. Again, I'm not going to get overly excited about what Florida State did against LSU. With Florida State, I have to see it consistently out of them to say, okay, this team's going places, pencil these guys in for X, Y, and Z. Again, I have to see it on the field. But they did. They took LSU behind the woodshed last week. And I don't know what LSU was thinking or what sort of game plan they had for the second half, but it was not good. I did not see any effort out of LSU that second half. And I don't know why I'm having a hard time finding who they play next week. And I'm still looking for it. And I'm blind as a bat. So again, I apologize. And I'm still looking and I still don't see it. So let me go to another trusty tool here. There we go. There they are. They play Southern Miss. Blowout city. They might have a letdown. We'll see. I'm going to say Florida State 49, Southern Miss 20. Michigan, we saw what they did last week. Obviously, Coach Harbaugh still suspended. They play UNLV this week. Michigan 50, UNLV 7. Number 1, Georgia. They looked lackluster last week, to be quite honest with you. That first half, they did not look good at all. It was horrible. I don't know what they were. They just didn't look good. They won, but it was not that impressive of a victory. I know they pulled away in the end. And now they get Ball State this week. And they're favored by 42. And they couldn't cover last week. So I'm going to say Georgia 47, Ball State 10. How's that? And the game of the week, Texas and Alabama. So this game will come down to the trenches, obviously. Just take a drink of my tasty beverage. It's at Alabama, you know what I mean? And until Texas proves it to me on the field, I mean, I just have to see it. And they just have. I mean, they should have won the game last year. I mean, Quinn Ewers got hurt, which was huge. Can he stay healthy this game? We'll see. But they have to prove it to me on the field, and I don't see it. This thing, Alabama will be too good in the trenches. So I'm going to go Alabama 40, Texas 25. And we'll end the show. That's it. Don't trust me. This is against the spread. Don't trust me. I went 1-1 the first week, and I went 4-3 last week, so I'm 5-4. I've seen worse. So here are my picks this week. I got Colorado minus the 2.5 against Nebraska. I just think in the end, yeah, they might have a letdown, but they have much more talent on their team than Nebraska does there. I have Georgia Southern minus the 7.5, Georgia State minus the 2.5. I just think both these programs, where they're going, they're both tough programs. They're both gritty programs. They just seem to be pointed in the right direction, and they both had impressive week 1 wins. Oklahoma over SMU. SMU, obviously, much better opponent than Arkansas State. I think SMU will probably hang around, but I just think Oklahoma is probably too much for them. So I'm taking Oklahoma minus the 16.5. USC, they're minus 29.5. I'm a little worried of USC just because which defense will show up. I hope they show up this week because I'm taking them minus the 29.5. I'm also taking Utah against Baylor. I know it's on the road. I know it's in Waco. Just Kyle Whittingham, what he's done there, he always has his team prepared. You very rarely ever see Utah get blown out. They're always right there, and they're just battle tested over the years. Baylor losing to Texas State. Where's their psyche after losing to Texas State? Yeah, they'll come out and they'll come out like gangbusters, and they'll have the crowd behind them, and then Utah just bludgeons you to death. So I'm taking Utah minus the 7 on the road, and then again, Wisconsin patting them on the back because of Buffalo. Washington State should beat Colorado State, and they did. They waxed them. Wisconsin travels all the way to Pullman, and I just don't. I'm not saying Washington State's going to win a football game. I did earlier. That's my prediction anyway, that Washington State would win a football game. I apologize. Short-term memory. I'm getting old. I'm 55 now. I just think Washington jumps on them early, and I think they ride that. This is Luke Fickell's real first test on the road. New school, new environment. Washington State covers and wins the football game outright. Again, thanks to everybody who tunes in, everybody who watches the replay. They watch on YouTube and they go back and take a look at questions, comments, criticisms, whatnot. I'm all for it. At the Neffski on Twitter. You can email me at ryanneff68@gmail.com. Again, thanks to my man Double S, Sean Stewart. Oh, and I completely forgot. And I told him I would mention this. Don't forget, the fantasy show now, Sports for America, is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And coming up at 8 o'clock tonight on Sports for America, and I want to get it correct, is the Gridiron Show. So don't forget to tune into those. Again, thanks to my man Sean Stewart. Enjoy week 2 of college football, my friends, because now the ball is rolling, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. Enjoy the NFL weekend too, my friends. I'm out.